We're now going to look at something called a spirometer trace, and this is a medical instrument that is used to measure different lung volumes, and then those lung volumes can be shown on a graph such as the one that we can see here. So the lung volumes that we're particularly interested in are tidal volume, inspiratory reserve volume, expiratory reserve volume, and vital capacity and residual volume over here. So we're going to go through each one carefully. So first of all, tidal volume. Tidal volume is the amount of air inspired and expired with each normal breath. So we can see it here. This clearly shows that for each breath in and out, it's very consistent, so we can gather that this person's at rest. If you were to be exercising, tidal volume is going to increase because the amount of air inspired and expired, so your breathing depth, is going to increase. So it would look more like this here, going up higher and coming all the way down the other end. So that would show that we were breathing deeper. You would also find on a graph, and you could get shown a graph in an exam of during exercise perhaps, that the lines would get closer together for tidal volume. So they would get higher and closer together because you're also breathing quicker. So you're breathing quicker and you're breathing deeper. Expiratory reserve volume is the additional amount of air that can be expired from the lungs after normal expiration. And inspiratory reserve volume is the maximal amount of additional air that can be drawn into the lungs after normal inspiration. So if you breathe in normally now, just a normal breath, and then stop, then you can try and breathe in even further. There is still much more air that can be taken into the lungs, and that's your inspiratory reserve volume. Your expiratory reserve volume, like we said, is the opposite. So if you just breathe out normally now and stop, and then try and breathe out again, you can breathe out a lot further. So that reserve volume is quite high. However, during exercise, because your tidal volume has increased, it means that there is less inspiratory and expiratory reserve volume. So these two here will decrease during exercise. Vital capacity is the maximum amount of air that can be forcibly inhaled and exhaled. So if you were to take your deepest breath now, as possible, as deep as you can, and then forcibly breathe out all of the air that you can, that total volume of air is your vital capacity, and it's almost the size of your lung capacity. We can't quite get rid of all of the oxygen though, so it's almost that size. Vital capacity doesn't really change during exercise. It pretty much stays the same. And finally, residual volume, this one over here, is the amount of air left in the lungs after forceful expiration. So if you breathe out every bit of air that you possibly can, there is still going to be a little bit left because we can't quite get rid of it all, and that is known as our residual volume. Just like vital capacity, residual volume doesn't tend to change during exercise. We can never get rid of that little bit of air left in our lungs, whether it's during exercise or during rest.